My name is Dan Dorval, and I'm President and CEO of Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. I am an independent certified financial planner and author of my book, Financial Success for the Rest of Us, Reality-Based Financial Planning for Mainstream America.
Hi, my name is Leah Woodley. I'm an associate financial advisor with Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. Our conversations discuss what it means to do quality of life planning in all areas of your life. Dan, I'm not sure how your meetings went this week, but I met with a woman this week who just retired. She's 70 years old and she is preparing to move out of state. She wanted to meet with me because she wanted to know if it was okay for her to withdraw money from her retirement funds to help support this move. And it's a six-figure amount of money that she wanted to withdraw. So this was a large sum of money. She has been working for most of the year and she's already collecting her pension. So I immediately knew that this was going to trigger an IRMAA surcharge. And for those of our viewers who are not sure what IRMAA is, that is a surcharge that affects your Medicare premiums. So anytime you have that amount of money that is coming in that would put you in a new tax bracket, it can impact how much you pay for Medicare's Part B and D. So I was able to inform her of that. For her particular situation, she kind of was aware of that and she didn't mind that she would have to have those increased premiums for a year. She just definitely wanted the peace of mind of getting through this move smoothly. And she was okay with just accepting that 2 years from now, she'll have higher Medicare premiums.
Yeah, IRMAA is just one of those things that fits in with tax brackets and, all the issues that go along with how you access your funds. And it gets complicated because it's not really right or wrong. It ends up being one of these issues where you're balancing out a whole bunch of different, considerations. And it's important, like in your case, you made her aware of one of those considerations that she might not have been thinking about. So, first off, from a planning perspective, it's so critically important for our viewers to understand that this is why, in many cases, we might tell them at a younger age, hey, why don't you do, some pre-tax savings through like your 401k or an IRA or whatever that is. But we might say, well, you also should do Roth contributions in order to create that tax diversification where down the road, many, many years, we might look at it and go, okay, well, thankfully, you have options to pick and choose. And a lot of times, if I have this Roth bucket, which would be a tax-free bucket, well, you could have taken out 100 grand for a house purchase or some other major quality of life type of decision and not impacted IRMAA or not jacked her up into much higher tax brackets for that year. And it would have been a much more efficient approach. But so many people get caught up in like, I want to defer taxes now, defer taxes now, defer taxes now in order to reduce my tax bill today. They're not thinking about all those complicated puzzle pieces and considerations that might pop up down the road. So in your case, if her primary source of funds is a pre-tax retirement account, which is very commonly the case with many of the people we help, she doesn't have a whole lot of choices. And as
Right.
long as she's aware, hey, I might have to pay higher taxes, I might have to pay my higher Medicare premiums for 1 year, that's just a cost associated with accessing her money. But at the same time, if her house is her ultimate quality of life, it's a trade-off, and it might still make sense for her to do it. Or, maybe there are things we can do around the edges, like, hey, maybe we could hold off some or all of the distribution until January 1st. And, now maybe next year she's got a better situation. But with IRMAA in particular, they look back 2 years looking at
Mhm.
income, and then that affects your Medicare 2 years from now.
Yeah.
And she might not even remember like what happened as far as why she's now paying higher premiums. But at least if you kind of blow it out all in 1 year, she'll have higher Medicare premiums, but maybe it's only for 1 year. And then it might go back down to where they were.
Right, that is so true. I think with her, she just, like I said, she just wanted to get through the move. And I think in her situation, I know you said a lot of people want to focus on deferring their taxes. I think she was probably someone who just wasn't even aware that she had a Roth option available to her. That's something that we see frequently. People, especially some of the nurses that we work with, they kind of just get defaulted into their retirement plan. They don't touch it. They're just like, whatever, whatever I've been put in, that's what it is. And she probably had no idea that tax diversification was a thing and that she should have utilized that Roth option. So I think that goes back to what you're saying, that it is important for people to meet with us early. The earlier you meet with us in life, the easier it becomes when you get to these retirement stages. And it's easier for us to be able to support you in your quality of life goals at that point.
Yeah, when we meet with people, sometimes they're aware that they have these options. Sometimes they're not aware. Sometimes they have just no idea how it works. And so having access to us, these nurses, through their, M&A agreement that we have, we can now help them become more intentional about, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And why does this approach make sense for my situation, but maybe my friend or my coworker or, whatever, maybe it doesn't make sense for them.
Right. That's why it's always important. I mean, we hear people always come in and say, well, my coworker said this, or my father said this. We hear that so much, but it is important to understand that your situation is your situation and it's not going to look like the next person. You have to focus on what's going on with your unique situation and kind of block out all the noise.
Yep, absolutely. I heard that several times this week. And then I remind them, like things like Social Security, for example. Well, my friend took it as early as possible, and I had another friend who waited. And, maybe we tell one nurse to take it early because of her situation. Maybe she needs it to maintain quality of life. And we have another one where we tell that person to defer. And then they talk to each other because a lot of the nurses we help know each other. And they
Right.
might be, well, why did he tell me this and you something different? Financial planning is never a one size fits all, or rarely is it a one size fits all type of approach. It's almost always dependent on your personal values, priorities, and motivations. And so our advice is going to shift and evolve depending on your situation.
Right. And I think from their perspective, all they heard was great advice. And this was great advice for me. So let me share it. This will
Absolutely.
work for you too. And that's just not the case.
Well, I'm glad you were able to help her because, IRMAA is one of those things that, well, first off, it's confusing. Second, a
Mhm.
lot of people aren't aware of it. And then, third, they don't realize how big of an impact it is because you can go from paying, $175 a month for Medicare Part B all the way up into, the three, 400 some odd dollar per month if
Mhm.
you have significantly higher income for 1 year.
Yeah, for her, this would have been an increase of around 300 something dollars per month. So
That's a
it is
big cost.
it's a big cost. It absolutely is. Fortunately for her, she's in a situation where she has enough income coming in that it's not really going to impact her too severely, but it's just something that you do need to consider. So I think the key takeaways for our audience are just to be aware that you should try to diversify your retirement savings while you can. If you have a Roth option available to you, that's something that you may want to look into. But it's also good to speak with an advisor because just because you have it, it may not be appropriate to use based on your situation, depending on your income level. The earlier in your career that you can start using the Roth, the better, because you're typically at your lowest income level. So it's good to pay taxes up front when you're at that low income level. Anything else you
Absolutely.
want to add, Dan?
No, I think you summed it up really well. That idea of tax diversification, I think a lot of people don't think that way. They think
Mhm.
about that with their investments because they've been preached to, don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. And that phrase comes up routinely in our meetings, but they don't think that way when it comes to taxes.
Absolutely. Well, this was a great conversation. I hope it helps someone. And until next time, have a great one.
Thanks, Leah.